pressure, because I think this tremendous, with a lot of respect to all the fraternity, there's too much of insecurity within us that what I do would be how it would be taken, I feel.
So I would only make a small statement, humanize this as well. That we are all people who are not so courageous. But there are those moments of courage we may get ourselves to do in our long life. If there are those 1 or 2 moments in which we brought the courage up and we did something, good enough. Rest of the time we don't have to feel so ashamed that we lack courage. That's what I mean humanizing. Let it be, right? That I am afraid. Oh, I am afraid of authority figure. I am afraid of mobs. I am afraid of people who are chauvinists. Okay. Humanize it.
Yes.
Accept it. Right? When you do it, right, then you don't feel guilty about it. But always also tell in the middle of all this, there are going to be those moments in which this person, I, who have these kind of fears, would stand up. And when you stand up, remember those moments. Those are moments in which you exercise leadership. And I'm sure you will do it. Again, I will tell you, because I'm a storyteller, that's why I will say. Age of 16, my mother found herself waking up one morning and found her father dead. 3 daughters, mother 16, elder 18, younger 10 years. A mother who was studying 5th standard and a Carnatic music singer in the world of 1952. If you are a Carnatic music singer and went and gave concerts, you are an unchaste woman. And if you happen to be a Brahmin woman in Tamil Nadu, it's not possible, right, to do that. So, look at these 3 girls. In her own words, she says that when we woke up, we don't know what to do the next day. He was a magistrate. So what happens to the house? Where do we go? What will happen? Nothing. The only thing the village told them was that the cremation should be done only by a son or an equivalent of a son. So my mother turned around and said, "It's my father, I will cremate him." And in 1952, she walked up and cremated her father and said, "Do what the hell you want to do. You want to keep us out of the caste? Keep us out of the caste. But when you meet my mother, you will not find her like this. She's a very soft, quiet, sensitive, compassionate. She's not a tigress. You don't have to. These are stereotypes we create about people. Look at the leadership, we say, all leaders have to be flamboyant, articulate, masculine, alpha males. And the competencies, look at what we do in our own companies, how we create our competence in this thing. There's a lovely book called Quiet, you should read. Right? There the author makes a proposition by saying how the world in the last 1,500 years have lost some remarkable leaders because we have framed our leaders as people who are not quiet people. And we have rejected quiet people. So if only we are, so my point is to say, point completely accepted, but I'm trying to stay with my theme today. And the theme is to say, it's okay to be afraid. But in the middle of it, all of us have the strength, and when those leadership moments come, don't hesitate, step up. And it need not be measured in the grand scale of impact. Because you always start thinking about leadership as this dramatic grand scale of impact. Why should it? It's your moment. It's the moment of the other person for whom it mattered. The rest don't count at all, no? So if it happened to be on a grand scale, Talia. If it happened to be at a micro scale, still Talia. Then you see, you will start exercising leadership. Because you frame it in this grandiose manner, screen going up, all boom, 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 boom. No, they're small things. My dad will never walk past a dead body on the road. As a child, I've seen it. He will say human beings deserve greater dignity than being left to die like animals on the road. He was a bank clerk. I say it proudly. He brought up 5 of us very well. And more than that, he brought my cousins up. 12 children is what my dad brought up with his meager income as a bank clerk. So he will stop there. Those days no cell phones. So he'll go to the municipal, he will say, stand here, Ram Kumar or my sister Shanti, be here. We'll go get the municipality guy, do an unethical act of bribing him, and say, Petrumpada, go and cremate. Act of leadership. The dead man doesn't even know what has happened to somebody is doing this to him. So don't frame this leadership piece into this huge nonsense. If it can happen, great. But there are hundreds of ways by which you and I can go and exercise leadership and change for that one person in that life. And do it and feel proud. And the more you do it, the more you feel confident. And the more the scale will start becoming bigger. The less we tell us that I wait for this grand moment to arrive. And wait for me to find that grand moment in myself, to really mobilize myself, to go and take that grand moment. We will wait for our entire life, it will not come. Yeah, please.
Actually, I had a couple of issues which I would want to put forth, especially because I'm a student. So, all the academic knowledge comes forth. So, if we talk about, humanizing leadership, at the same time, if we say that we humanize leadership and those are the people who are also not infallible, they can also make mistakes. Do you not need to attribute those qualities to a leader? Otherwise, how would we follow? If we say Gandhi was also a human, or if at that time people assume Gandhi is also a human and he can also make those mistakes, do you think it would have been possible to mobilize that huge crowd if cultification of Gandhi would have not happened? Do you think people would have followed him the way they did? And besides, in present scenario also, if we look at the current ecosystem, a corporate ecosystem for that matter, if we do not, not even cultivate, that would be too exaggerate, but if we do not consider a leader to have that high position, the exaltation of leader does not happen, would that line of distance, would that dignification not erode? Do you not think that way? I mean,
that's a personal call. What's your name?
Diksha.
Diksha.
Yeah.
That's a personal call. Right? Each of us have to really make those personal calls by saying, see, please understand that propaganda is an integral part of the deification or vilification of a leader. That's a social process. Inevitable. Right? Will happen. Right?
The same. Okay.
Yeah. I will argue, no problem. Right? I will argue with you because that's the best way to learn. Why you learn, you make me learn and like other people learn, because that's the best, that's called the dialectic way of really engaging people. You're lost. With authority figures, when you put them on the podium, you're supposed to only listen to them and not question them and not push them. And the question has to be asked of them as to show, give me your wisdom kind of a question. Right? It cannot be, let's talk. Right? I'm happy that you're talking to me. Right? That's the best way. That's how we should run national study. Right? That's the way. That's when knowledge happens. That is the Upanishadic way. I'm a non-believer, right? I don't believe in God, I don't go to temples, I don't do any of those things. I'm a complete non-believer. But I can tell you chapter and verse from Rig Veda and everything to you. But I read it because that's interesting to read to me. Right? I don't have to feel compelled to revel it at the end of the day. Sometimes I do, some aspects which inspire me. Now, coming to your point is that I'm saying, that's a call you have to make personally. The reality is leadership will always be deified and will always be vilified. Now what would you do with leadership? That creates what Gerd Hofstede, the master who wrote about culture, called power distance. So when you create in your mind power distance with leaders, you live one kind of life. And when you become a leader, you can be different. So why should we worry about other leaders? And why should we worry about how they behave? Should we not be asking, what will I do? Will I reduce power distance? And that's a call you have to make. And if you want to reduce power distance, then you cannot be deifying or deifying. Then you should be in a mode in which you are able to engage people and let people challenge you. Which does not mean, one of the things I see in organizations is, I'm again coming back to humanization, right? Let's say a young person like you stands up in ICACI, in Hindustan Lever where I was, and you challenge me. Now one of the principles you carry in your mind is to say that I should mollycoddle you and I should deal with you with softness and not counter challenge you. If I counter challenge you, you will see me as an aggressive leader and you will stop engaging. Look at this paradox. So when does a leader counter challenge another person? Because I treat you as a fellow equal. So I say, we can argue. So I'm challenging you. You challenge me. Right? But look at the HR speak and the behavioral speak is to say, no, you should not be challenging in your engagement. So how will you be in your engagement? So I'm challenging you right now. Right? That's because of what you did with your question which provoked me, and it was a worthy engagement. So I'm challenging you. So the question is to you, is to say that when you are a leader, do you want to deify yourself or do you want other people to deify you? And if it happened, what kind of leadership will you? Or would you humanize yourself and let other people humanize you? When I finish my term, there are going to be people who are going to turn and say, I look, Ram Kumar assumed leadership and spoke on the YouTube on how National HRD Network has been transformed and how membership should go to 50,000. Look, he is a failure. Kuch nahi kiya. 2 saal. So what should Ram Kumar do? Go back and argue and like everybody will put one more PowerPoint presentation. I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. Or to say, okay, we are in a public space that you assume leadership. There are people who are going to, you said you will do this, you didn't do it. People are going to turn around and say, you did not do it, so I did not do it. Big deal. Okay. But did I exercise leadership? Yes. But did success come out of it? No. Will people criticize me for it? Yes. Does it make me half an inch shorter than what I am? No. Do the people who respect me will continue to respect me for the other things which I bring on the table? Yes. So why should it be that on everything Ram Kumar will be a great National HRD Network president? Why can't he have not done things which are wrong? He will. I'm human. That's the point I'm making. And such leaders, look at Obama today. History will be kinder to Obama than what contemporary world is. One of the very rare American presidents in a lineage of American president who presented himself in a non-deified manner even to his own constituency. There's a lovely book called Team of Rivals written by Dorothy Keene. Right? It's a Pulitzer-winning book. Right? Where she brings Abraham Lincoln, the human being, the melancholic, potentially homosexual, potentially somebody who had suicidal instincts all through his life. Human being. And somebody who was a gifted speaker, a gifted mobilizer, vacillating, indecisive man. Bribed to get the one vote which was required to pass the legislation for abolition of slavery. Okay, but he was still somebody who abolished slavery. He was still somebody who thought it was, he did not know he will die. So don't deify him like that. So Abraham Lincoln gave his life for slavery, abolition of slavery. No, he did not. Because he did not know he will die. Let him. But still, without all this, he is a great man, right? He did something which was extraordinary. That is the point I make. So propaganda will be there, you're right. Vilification will be there, you're right. And sometimes you have to do all of them because that's a political skill you need to know in certain contexts for you to be able to move large masses of people.
That's precisely the point I was trying to make. If you look at the word leader itself, the word lead is there, and automatically, the exaltation happens. That's endemic. You cannot get away from that. The moment there is one person who's leader, he is segregated. So if we consider that leader to be one of us, who do we follow? And if you don't follow, everybody
What
starts.
I'm asking you is to say that why should the leader be here? Why cannot he be here? So in what way now, by coming down from there to stand here and having this conversation with you, where is my leadership now coming for you? Is it because I'm National HRD Network President, or is it because the conversation you are having with me is stimulating? So what character of your leadership do you want to really put out is the question I'm asking all of us. There are many characteristics of Ram Kumar which is not very good. But there is this one characteristic of Ram Kumar which at this moment seems to be working for this girl, which is that she chooses to stay engaged with me in this conversation. And your leadership right now is to have gotten up and to have stayed with me and stayed engaged with me in the middle of the 40 people in the room. So you have exercised leadership, do you realize right now? And this may not be your only character. I don't know you. And your friends, your siblings, your parents, they may disapprove of many things with you. But this moment will not go away for you, right? Provided you recognize that this moment is an exercise of leadership. And if you discount this moment and did not register in your mind as an exercise of leadership, right, you would not know what it is to exercise leadership. This is how much it is to exercise leadership. Nothing more to it. The rest is all noise, propaganda. To be able to stand on your feet, to be able to hold your ground, to seek to influence other people's thought and emotion and action, that is leadership. You are trying. I am trying. And in this discourse, both of us are exercising leadership. And there is nothing more to leadership. The rest of all is sound, fury, noise, which people put out. That's all. There's nothing more. What do you do in leadership? Try to change the status quo? Shape a future? Resolve it alone. So you know what are you doing? Resolving it alone. What am I doing? Challenging a status quo. Exercise of leadership. Then we may not be changing the future. Attempting, right? Because every context does not require it to be done. Yeah? That's right. Yes, boss. I'll be here as long as it doesn't contract. Once I contract, I contract. That's all.
Yeah. Mr. Kumar, my question is based on a couple of assumptions or expectations we have from leaders. Number one, leaders are supposed to create leaders. Okay? So if that be an assumption, and we've seen ICICI, and we take the liberty to quote ICICI in number of forums, how they were
I have done it myself in the propaganda through my propaganda, my biodata, right?
So my question stems from that how have you seen Mr. Rahul and KVK do this thing by transferring this quality of humanizing leadership? How did they pass it on to other leaders? that's my question one. How have you seen them develop this quality in other leaders, like you and all of us? The second part of question again comes from your statement. You said that ecosystem of the leader is also important. How has ICICI created that ecosystem that humanizing leadership, this quality could be kind of nurtured into the leadership? Part one is how these leaders did it, and part two how the ecosystem was created that an organization could bring up this quality. Some of the leaders.
The difficult question is to ask Sachin Tendulkar how to play a god, right? He simply plays it. That's all. Right? That's why he's Sachin Tendulkar, right? So he simply plays it. And there are times he plays it well, there are times he doesn't play it well. So at Sydney, he cut out cover drive because he said that he was getting out. So I'm again saying it, right? So I don't know how. What I've seen, what I can say. I don't know, you had asked Mr. Kamath and you had asked Mr. Wagul that, right? That question, right? So I would be presumptive to yeah, that's what otherwise I'm presumptive to be representing them, which is wrong, right? I don't know. The question you asked about, I'll frame it slightly broader, right? So that we work on that broader frame. The broader frame is that in what ecosystems do leaders flower? In what ecosystem do leaders come up and people get up and assume leadership, right? Is it, and what do existing leaders, what role do they play? People who are exercising, what do? So I'll take it beyond Kamath and beyond this topic, right? Otherwise we get caught up with individuals, which I'm a bit of an iconoclast, right? It's very difficult to, even in my sleep, to wake me up and ask me to do Narastuti or I will find it very difficult to do, right? I respect all these people, but it's still beyond a point deify people. It's not possible for me. And I wouldn't want anybody to do that to me as well, right? So that's a difficult one for me to do. For every non-believer, true non-believer, it's a very difficult one. A true non-believer does not say there is no God, right? He respects the faith of other people, right? So that's what I. So in my mind, let's contrast it, then we understand. There are people who don't provide any space for exercise of leadership to anybody else when they are exercising leadership. So they become the sole agenda setters, the sole context, culture, behavior definers. They become the sole people who aggrandize all the successful outcomes as having been created by their thought and their actions alone, a la Narendra Modi, right? Or a la Donald Trump, or kind of people, you can, Indira Gandhi, you can go kind of it. So in their ecosystem, you would not find an equally competent, tall leader standing next to me, next to that person on the podium, and being publicly regarded as an equal of this person. So in that context, any amount of training programs, mentoring, nurturing, all of them are wasted, because that setup says you can only create an inferior leader to the supremo who is there only when Jayalalitha is dead. Shashikala, the next Jayalalitha, can come. I'm not saying any of them in derogation or any of those things, right? That's not. I'm merely recounting a process. So when Mayawati or Mohan speaks, the rest of the people are not supposed to be able to show even mental equivalence to them. So all engagement in the institution happens in the name of this supremo. All thoughts are supposed to have fertilized in the minds of this person. All that which is worthy of being celebrated emanated from the mind of this single person. So that's one. Then you see, when you put a Kamath or a Vagul on a stage, when they are giving a speech in a public forum, talking about what has happened to ICICI, you would hear Mr. Kamath talk about Vaidyanathan, Madhavi, Ramkumar, Bhargav Das Gupta, and generally saying, you know, Bhargav did this in establishing the international banking. You know, Vaidhi did this in really taking on Citibank. You know, Madhavi did this with respect to creating this trading platform which is today bigger than Charles Schwab. So these people give public stature in their accounts. At the drop of a hat, they would say, this is what Kalpana did. You know, this is what so-and-so did. Kind of a thing. And don't think these are benign people. Engaging a Vagul or Kamath is sumo wrestling. So there was a time I used to ask Kamath, I asked him, I said, sir, why is it that you are always fire and brimstone when anybody speaks to you? You are completely intimidating in your engagement. So I turned around and he knows I am a cricket fan. Now all of you know how I started this meeting. So I turned around and asked me by saying, how do you judge a good batsman from? So I did Savannah Park, Kingston, Michael Holding, Malcolm Masterson. The old Perth, Dennis Lilly, Thamo. And you can play them, you're a good batsman. So I want to see you whether you're a good batsman or not. So these kind of leaders challenge you. They don't just put you on, stand there and propagate you. They push you to the ledge. And those moments are excruciatingly difficult moments. Every engage with Vagul and Kamath is a killer engagement. Kamath, Vagul, Kalpana, they're all killer engagement. They intimidate. They won't shout, yell, threaten, use abusive words. Intellectually intimidate. So there's this time, this one Ramkumar goes to Kamath and those are the days proud, right? And I go around, Mr. Kamath go. Mr. Kamath said, how many people do you see to select a person? Ramkumar, right? Great guy. So he tells, sir, 10 people, sir, to select one person. He turned around and said, this is Kamath, how Kamath speaks. Isn't that dumb, Ramkumar? If you have a good selection system, you should see one person select one person. Game over for you. So then you come out of the room and you do this to yourself, idiot. Why did you not think like that? So Kamath does not tell you go and select one person and one person. Kamath does not tell you how to do that. Kamath, what did he do? He changed your worldview by challenging you, which is what I was attempting with. But let you be. Now Ramkumar has to go back and figure out for himself, right? And if you are an idiot, you will literally think what Kamath said was that one person to one person you should select. All that he was basically asking me was, where is the productivity in your process? Where is the competence in your process? Where is your ability in your process? Is what Kamath challenged me. So when you decode it, you grow. Narayana Swami sir, Kamath, they all make you do that. They grow. So 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, cycle bell will ring in my house. Narayana Swami sir will be there. He will come out, put me on the career and pedal 16 kilometers to Rajaratnam Stadium. I literally used to cry and beg with them, sir, don't do this, sir. Everybody will see an old man pedaling and a young boy sitting in the back. They will all curse me. He made another very profound statement. This is an SSLC pass physical education teacher. He told me, my job is to get you to the place of performance, your job is to perform when you get there. Vagul, Kamath. That's how they develop leaders. They take you to the point of performance. And then they step back. Satish Pradhan. there is this huge transformation program happening in Hindustan Lever. I was on Chuttu was there, that Satish, you help me, he said Ram come design and all that stuff and all. So I would say in a big hall, senior people in the room. So Satish would have told me, hey Ram, there are times I'm going to call you and I want to go and, everybody knows Chimney, Satish Pradhan. So if some of you can help him stop cigarette smoking, I will be grateful to you. I tried my level best, I couldn't, right? I'm still trying, right? Because I want him to live for 20-25 more years at least, actually. So Satish would tell me, obviously, come hold the session for a few minutes, I'll come back. What trust does it do? And Satish will then come back and go and sit in the back row and let me continue with the session as long as I want it. So they give you stage. They willingly give you stage. And they don't tell you all this thing before you go on to the stage. Oh, senior team, huh? Don't make a mistake, huh? Don't say this, huh? Make it right. None of that. He simply tells you, you are Ram Kumar, you will be Ram Kumar, and you will do some things good, you will do something not so good. But this is how you learn. Go. So these are how I've seen these people do. These are how they do it. They're not the easy people. I'll close it. In my book I've written about this, about a remarkable sportsman called Bernard Hinault. Bernard, I don't know how many of you follow Tour de France. Tour de France is one of the most difficult races in the world. Lance Armstrong's made famous by his thing, but he was not the only person who used drugs. That's why we should humanize him also. I wrote 2 articles about Lance Armstrong, humanizing him, to say that every cyclist since 1990 who has ridden the Tour de France have been loaded with drugs actually. So we made a villain out of Lance Armstrong. There hasn't been a single person who has not been loaded up. But anyway, Bernard Hinault, 5-time champion, French. Then Greg LeMond, an American, was riding in his Lacarte team. So before that year's Tour de France, Hinault announces by saying that Greg LeMond, I've been nurturing this boy. So this is his race this year to win. I will help him win this race. It's a team game, 10 cyclists in a team. So they work together to really get one of them to become the champion and the team to become a champion. That's how the race is, right? So it's a 21 days grueling race, 4,800 kilometers, Alps, Pyrenees, right? It's a death-defying race. So day 5, day 10, day 13, day 14, Bernard Hinault is flying, right, on this. So the press, everybody are pillaging him to say, cheat. He said that, the American press, right, that he will get LeMond to win, and look at this man, selfish fellow, riding to glory. He wants his 6th title because until then Eddie Merckx, there are only 2 people who have had 5. For him it's a record-breaking 6th, kind of a thing. Then on a Pyrenees, he attacks everybody and goes on and puts up 5.5 minutes lead. 5.5 minutes lead is a race winning, no, very difficult to break. But anyway, to cut the long story short, right, finally Greg LeMond wins the race. Right, the title is to Greg LeMond, and both of them hand in hand crosses on the Champs-Élysées. They ride. At the end of it, you should read that story. I have not done justice here. It will take a long time for me to do the entire story to justice. It's an outstanding story. So in the press conference, Hinault was asked by saying, what happened? He said that it would be a shame if Greg LeMond won the race because I let him win it. Greg LeMond, champions beat other champions to become champions. So Greg LeMond beat Bernard Hinault and is a true champion because of it. I wanted to show it to the world that is a worthy champion, and I egged him on to beat me to be the champion. I was there to beat everybody else so that the race is only between me and Greg LeMond. So Greg LeMond did not have to worry about other competition. I killed them. But Greg LeMond has to beat me. Only when Greg beat me, he is the worthy champion. That's how you make leaders. You don't let people be leaders. Don't let them be leaders. Let's cop out. Right? It is by setting it up to the point where you say, I know you are good, that's why I have chosen you, in the midst of so many people. Now let's see. What are you made of? Whereas our evangelistic metaphor on mentoring is nonsense. Babu will never let another person become a leader, unworthy person. Kamath will never let an unworthy person become a leader. Chanda will never let an unworthy person become a leader. Shika will, they are all our people. Shika will not become anybody become a leader. They would challenge you to the last ounce of sweat and blood you have, and then you cross the line, and they would be the first people to hold their hand up to the world and show, hey, clap for this fellow, huh? And they'll quietly walk away and stand in the corner and put you on the stage. That's how I have seen it. I don't know what they think of all this. You have to ask them anything. Sir, you want to ask?
Yeah, just one comment. What my experience has been, there is always a semantics. We can't make a differentiation between leader and a leadership. So
Sure.
many times we confuse these two things.
Sure.
That is why these issues of our trying to typify the leader and then make comments on that and say it has to be of this standard. To my mind and to my experience, each one of us can be a leader, and you have to know what are your opportunities to exercise your leadership. And this you can do within your family, you can do within your workplace, you can do with your friends and colleagues. All that is required is actually, because understanding of leadership is basically, you should be able to put a person at ease. You should be able to build a confidence in him that he can do it at whatever level. And he is a person where he can actually learn to keep on improving by raising the bar. And if these three things are required, then that is actually, you become a leader in your own microwave.
The only rider I will put here is that you cannot get somebody to become a leader. You should want to become exercise leadership. So my proposition is 95 to 90, I don't know whether 95%, I think a predominant majority of the people do not want to exercise leadership. There is a lovely research paper by Gary Gemmell of Syracuse University called Mythology of Leadership in Small Groups. So it's a late 70s, early 80s article. This is why I regard Satish Pradhan, Zahir Kanji and all that with great regard. So these are the people who got me to read all this. Otherwise I would never have known that these kind of papers existed actually. So in that, Gary Gemmell makes this proposition to say that the great majority of human beings are terrified of taking responsibility and accountability for any other person other than themselves. Because great majority of the people are so scared of taking responsibility and accountability to any other person other than themselves, leadership is such a rare occurrence. So my proposition is slightly different, that you can only help people who step up and want to exercise leadership to become better at it. Any amount of opportunity given in a place which is crying for leadership, everybody don't step in. There's this odd person who walks up and steps up. To be where Riya is today in Apple HRD network, let's say tomorrow I request her to resign. And how many people will step up and take it? Let's say there is no election. No, it's not about personalizing. I'm not personalizing you. I am really making a point on your observation to say that, again an observation, we think about leadership cognitively. Then we will put some of these principles. But leadership is not a cognitive process. It's a very emotional process. It's a deep emotion. So largely leadership is anxiety inducing.
Well, let me just give you my own experience. I'm not a core HR professional. I've come from operations, but I had a deep I had a deep interest in HR for last 30 years.
But leadership has nothing to do with HR.
Agree, but I'm just trying to say the comment here is because for a large part of my career, I worked on greenfield projects. And greenfield projects, what happens? You create a team which is completely unknown to each other. They first have to bind together as a team, and then they have to do multiple kind of activities. And many times they don't have the skill, they have never done that particular work previously, but they are not necessarily coming from that expertise.
Sure.
But moment you give them this opportunity and say that you can do it, give them some confidence, give them guidance. Sometimes they do mentoring, sometimes put them saying that you do it and I am there behind you. So various ways in which a leader, this is also part of the leadership process that one will follow. And I have found in this process, because I have done this probably 8 or 10 times, various greenfield projects which were established. While building those teams, I have found a very large part, 7 out of 10 people, after they went through this process for say 1 year or 2 years during project construction period, they became completely different people.
And did they all go on to be comfortable with exercising leadership?
Yes, because they in turn could actually then give this leadership also to their small group.
So now let's take this engagement.
Now this is something what I don't find there is any HR process which allows this kind of activity to happen to operating managers.
I'll just hold you here. Sir.
I'm just trying to
I'll just
connect
hold you,
these two things.
no, I'll just hold you here, right? Yeah, let's take this engagement right now, right? So what should I be doing in this engagement? Suppose if I disagree with them. If I disagree with them, it will be disrespectful to him. That's a conventional wisdom. Yeah, and it will be seen as dishonoring him in the room. Suppose he disagrees with me, like he should not do it. But both of us are very comfortable disagreeing with each other, right? And presenting our points of views without necessarily indignifying either of us. And there is no monopoly that my points of views are the ones which are right or his points are. We can co-hold both of them and leave it to the audience to decide which one appeals to them. And we don't need to have this compulsion of establishing this one superordinate truth between two. And there are none. This experience is true to him, and my experience is true to mine, and it is quite possible both experiences are true. So we don't have to really feel compelled. But now it's very difficult. That's also humanizing. Yeah, this is how you humanize leadership. When you say, it's not when you speak, that's why you know why it's not cognitive. It's very emotional. Unless you feel that way to him, unless if he didn't feel evoked, he wouldn't have got up and spoken. By getting up and speaking, he honored me. That he said, you said something which is worthy of commenting. So I stood up and I made the comment. But now I cannot be saying that a comment should be something reflecting my thought, right? That's coercive. So that comment obviously will reflect his experience, his beliefs, and his thoughts, and which are real to him. And the moment we are able to honor it in the room, and yet say, look, yes, but